Hi, Thea.
Hello, Anne.
So it's been a while since we've done one of these recordings, recorded chats, but we've been chatting a lot throughout the last few months as I have settled here now down in Texas Hill Country, and you were there up in Portland, Oregon, where it's rainy and wet and very treesy, as I see behind you. And we have been and continue to try to understand and how do you put it, this accelerated
journey
that we all seem to be on. The lesson that we were all supposed to be, or the opportunity to learn. And it has brought us to this concept of charity. I was asking you, and Drake, your son, home from college, is there. It's in the house. But I was asking, what's the opposite of judgment, condemnation, criticism? And he threw out charity, true charity, the highest love. And that resonates with me, because I was talking to you a little bit about this journey that I've been on, in terms of, over the last year and a half or more, having concerns, anxieties, focus, that has shifted, where I am not feeling so caught up in the chaos out there. And I was trying to put some language on it, and explaining that I'm striving to transcend that duality, because I think that's where the answer lies somewhere for us all, to kind of keep moving forward, to evolve. And you rightly took a little issue with that term, because that almost suggests not being here in this and committed in this present moment, right? So we found a better word for it, I think. And I'll just throw a few thoughts out there, but just think the answer has to do with definitely charity of spirit, and understanding. That's what we keep coming back to. What are we trying to do here? What does the answer often seem to be? And let me give a very mundane example. We adopted these lovely cats once we got the house, and quickly things have been busy. There's been a lot of busyness and movement, and we use, in the past, when we've had cats before, we've always used crystal cat litter, silica. And we pretty quickly transitioned the cats to that. Like when we first got them, it was a last minute thing. Just grabbed some of that clay litter and a pan. Everything was fine. They were trained already. But we moved them to the silica cat litter. And long story short, there's been some difficulty for the last month with the male cat, who keeps peeing in areas that he shouldn't. And I've been racking my brain with it. And long story short is, I realized I was trying everything except the litter, the type of litter, changed it back to the clay litter, and it solved it immediately. And there was this just this sense of something kind of just clarity, right? I mean, it was so simple.
Clarity.
What'd you say?
Clarity. Sorry, didn't mean to jump the gun, spoil the surprise about the litter. You get it? No.
Yes, I do now. He wanted that clay litter. He wanted the clay litter. It was so simple, but it was so, for some reason, challenging to figure it out. And, I just kind of am seeing this as an example.
Don't go for the crystal, folks. Go for the clay.
Well, it's just that it's all so simple, but he and I couldn't understand each other, right? And I had other issues with other cats with that, and I'm like conflating it all. And in the past with peeing and litter boxes and like what were the issues, and this one was very simple. And I think that's the case with all of us, for all of us with certainly our disagreements, and this polarization that's happened and continuing to happen. And I think that and a whole other part of it, to get a little woo-woo, I'm really grokking that we really are creating our own reality. We manifest our reality with our thoughts, our mind, our intentions. And that suggests, if we are manifesting our realities, and each of us are manifesting that suggests that person's fear or concern is just as valid as my fear or concern. That person's reality is just as valid as mine. And if we accept that we are manifesting our own realities, then obviously it seems the next thing to shine some light on is perhaps even letting go of those fears so that we don't none of us manifest them. But there's charity simply in the understanding that everything is as valid as mine.
I'm going to chime in. I think that within all of that is one interest, even if it's not one you must pursue, but when we're faced with another's perspective or experience, is that there's a space of interest, and that then creates a pathway, a connection from them to you and you to them. And when you're speaking about these polarizing experiences that many of us are having, it's about interest. It's about creating the pathways. It's about rounding out our individual perspectives, and therefore making a space or allowing a space that we can be connected, and interested, and create pathways together. Because as you're speaking of communication with your cats, how that's, if you're holding one idea so firmly, there's no space or room for anything else to come.
Yeah.
And so if we can find our own way, and that's where charity is the practice, rounding ourselves out to be softer, to be perceiving without holding our own torch so strong.
Yeah, exactly. And you've talked a lot about gentleness too. You've brought that up when we've discussed these concepts and my experiences. We can't really go wrong by being gentle in our reactions or responses to people, to beings, to animals,
To ourselves.
and to ourselves, right? To be gentle.
Yeah.
Because in the fact that we're all we're each having our own reality, unique to each of us.
And unique to what we are wanting to learn and experience.
Yeah, right. I mean, we're each on an individual path that converges with others, and in one form or another assists others on their paths. But it's unique to each of us. And so if we are basically, we're doing the best we can. We're each doing the best we can. You know, I mean, we can, there are, you know, there are levels, I think, of muckiness or clarity in our intentions. Hopefully we can grow past mean-spiritedness. But even if we've grown past conscious mean-spiritedness, it doesn't mean we're going to avoid unconscious mean-spiritedness, you know. So you can take it pretty far with that, recognizing that each person's triggers that may result in a very negative response or seeming offense is just, you know, it's just them doing the best they can with where they've gotten, you know, how they've gotten here to this point. So yeah, generosity of spirit and love. I mean, it keeps coming back to love is the answer. Love is the way. Mm-hmm. And that then, sorry, I've got
a loving situation.
So I've got some water being filled over there in the cooler as my son's getting ready to go to the gym. So, okay, so, you know, the other part is we all know that these are things to strive for: charity, compassion, love, and understanding. How I think the journey that, you know, we struggle with is how to do it, how to, you know, because it's easy to say, but sure is hard to do in our reactions.
And it shows up in numerous ways, and we may discover this is how I find it here, and then we get a new opportunity to find it in a new place. I think one of the things, I don't know if this is a place you want to go, but we had been discussing a little bit, I mean, and where I am, I see it so vividly, this culture of finding offense.
Yeah.
In so many places. And it's so easy to be critical, to have a critical perspective. And it's easy to find what's wrong with things. Yeah. And we were kind of talking a little bit, it's the holiday season and people celebrate many different holidays. And our conversation had been a little bit, you know, if I can say this, you know, a joy in being able to say Merry Christmas to people. And I simply commented that, yeah, we all know that the impulse in these sharing of celebratory gestures to people, yeah, greetings of honoring this holiday time is good. So it doesn't really even matter what we say in a certain way. Because let's take the good and yeah, move along, rather than this space of getting stuck on how we're being offended by someone not saying to us what we want to be said.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah, certainly let's be charitable in spirit in how we receive folks' intentions, right?
And let's not cut ourselves short. let's not minimize our capacity to perceive what is being offered. The words are one of the pathways, and words are important, but we can frequently sense what's behind or around the words. And if we allow ourselves to be that big and that perceptive, we're very rarely going to be truly offended by anything, because most often people are not trying to offend. Most often. I mean, there are other times, but that was another part we had talked about.
Exactly. And I'd say that extends further. And let me just make one quick note. I'm choosing to avoid certain terms as I'm discussing things, just because there are some restrictions in terms of what, how visible this video can be, depending on the terms and some of the language I use. So if I seem a little vague, it's for that reason. But I think people can get the idea if they're following along. But so back to offense, back to honoring ourselves as humans, honoring others as human beings, as, in the greatness and glory of being human, by being larger than maybe we have been led or misguided to believe we are, rather than reduce our perceptions to the word itself. Merry Christmas. I mean, for example, right, as you're bringing that up, if somebody, there's this trend on saying happy holidays, right? So that to avoid offending someone who's not Christian. The reality is, somebody saying Merry Christmas, they're just wishing you love, right? So, so let's not reduce ourselves just to the words themselves. We can perceive their spirit, we can perceive the emotion behind it, we can perceive the intention behind it, right? And then same goes, I think, for let's go from offense to fear, because they're a bit related in terms of our triggers.
They're contracted.
Say that again.
They're a contraction.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And so we can practice that same charity in how we receive news, in how we receive other people's gestures and their own responses. If we are more charitable with that, it will probably help moderate our own fear responses and triggers.
Yeah.
And the more we can do this regularly, I think the more we find ourselves not caught up in what I keep talking about. I know it's all sounding like pretentious or something, but
you don't need, that's not necessary.
Okay. Just to kind of get above the duality, if I can call it that way. I'm trying to not say transcend the duality, but or get outside the duality. How about that? Not above it, but outside the duality.
Yeah, like, so if the duality is this, right, we can exist and embrace it all.
Yeah. Because the duality requires this perspective facing this way, this perspective facing this way, pretty much only, right?
Precisely. And so the other part, I don't want to go ahead. I don't want to cut your thought.
No, you go ahead.
I was thinking about, friction, right? We need a little friction to become something, but if you're only existing in the space of against, then you don't see very much. And so if you think of, I don't know if I have a good analogy, but it's like it gets pressed so finely that it now has to go outside of it and exist all around and include it. So if it's smash, 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 it goes so small, it turns inside out, and now it's bigger than that little space in here.
Like the torus.
Precisely. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's an inverted sphere, right?
Yeah. So
if we think of, there's a need for this coming together, pressing against, forming, distilling even, and then it becomes vast as well. And when we were speaking about this sort of accelerated time we're in, I know I've definitely felt these moments where it's like, uncomfortable. And then when I can remember that I don't have to only exist in that, I can be bigger and include all of it and embrace it all, then you can breathe again. And you can see a little more fully all of the colors around you, and not just this space of despair or the space of challenge.
Right. So you're suggesting that it's necessary as part of the process for us to get kind of myopic in that perspective until it gets so small, we go inward and it comes.
It's a thought. I mean, I hope that we don't always have to get there, but maybe that's we all have heard this, the eye of the needle.
Yeah.
That's the birth. It's a birth. So if there's a birthing into functioning, becoming in a new way, it's not always going to be easy going. You come through a channel, you come through something that's pressing upon you, and then you can expand.
Well, as has been discussed, the light needs the dark to reflect itself, right? To reflect, to see it, to we need reference, right? So and that friction that you're talking about too, but that's an easy way to explore one perspective, is to go against another's perspective, and to really kind of really get in this experience of this one particular perspective. And maybe we do that, exhaust this, and then it's time to move on, widen our scope, and try another perspective.
Well, the thing I want to interject or add is that I think my goal, I'll say, is to be able to come into that without only existing in that. So one can go into this discussion, this pressing against, but not be only there, to not lose the roundness of, objectivity. How does one hold, or, anything? You have to, or hopefully, otherwise, maybe, just coming to it, I wonder if one cannot connect with that broader sphere when coming against something, you do simply stay in this against. This is a question, because it appears sometimes there's not the evolution into a broader seeing. So
maybe without charity, you can get stuck there.
Yeah.
But charity is also related to our oneness, our connection. Sorry, got my daughter telling me to smile. Not going to smile about everything I'm talking about, honey. Charity, it recognizes that I am you and you are me, and that gives us some Well, that makes it easy to maybe a little more fluidly step into your shoes, right? And switch my perspective up and not get so stuck in mine. So,
Yeah.
so, in the end, and this has been a mishmash of thoughts and ideas, but what I will simply say is that I appreciate the journey that it has been this last year and a half, almost 2 years now, that has been challenging and grueling at times. Because personally, I do feel, and I think when we think we've gone through the eye of the needle, we're like, oh, yeah, we went through like one of those little ones, and now we went through one of those big ones, and now we got a teeny one to go through, but just another stage. I do feel there's been a shift. I've had my own shift that has been, it's rewarding to peer from this perspective, even at my journey this last year and a half or so. And I do not feel, like I said, so caught up in the chaos. And obviously all of the cliches are true, which is just getting, I mean, we spent a year in the midst of it all, in the most remote area, with no distraction. That kind of gives you some time to go inward. And that's a good thing to do as well. Meditation, prayer helps all of this process. But I think another part of it that's been a key for me is getting in touch with this understanding that I am having, just my own perspective right now, but the perspective I'm having, that we really create our reality. And so what we choose to focus on is the reality we're going to probably be experiencing to one degree or another going forward. When we truly know this, it becomes a little easier to very consciously not feed a reality that we're not wanting to see in our future. And to control, I guess, our reactions to those who may be dwelling in a reality that we're not wanting to see, by forgiving them, by loving them, because they're just on their own journey.
Charity.
By being charitable. So
there you
whatever it's worth.
Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Happy Hanukkah.
Mm-hmm.
And just, love to all. Love to all.
Love to you. Yep.
Love to you.
Yeah.
Love you.
Love you too.
Till next time.